All right, let's jump right into it. Today's explainer is diving into a topic that is honestly going to completely change how you view your day-to-day life. We're talking about luck. Now, before you roll your eyes and think we're going to talk about magical four-leaf clovers or, manifesting winning the lottery, just stop right there. What we're breaking down from our source material today reveals luck not as some unpredictable mystical force, but as a hardwired biological mechanism, one that you can literally control. We are going to explore how simply understanding how your brain filters reality can completely transform your world.
Section 1. The Secret of Constant Luck.
To really wrap our heads around this, we first need to look at a classic divide in life that I guarantee we've all noticed. On one hand, you've got the unlucky mindset. You know the type. Whichever direction they go, there's always a barrier. They're constantly chewing on grievances, fighting through the mud, hitting every single red light. Then, on the other hand, you have the lucky reality. These people walk up to the bus stop and bam, the doors open immediately. They think about a job they might want, and suddenly a friend reaches out with a perfect connection. It just feels so effortless for them. Here's the crazy part though. Both of these realities are happening to everyone, all the time. The difference? It is entirely about what we choose to dwell on.
Section 2. The Trap of Negative Focus. So, you might be wondering, why do we do this? Why is it that when things go perfectly to plan, we just kind of shrug it off, but when one tiny little thing goes wrong, we obsess over it for days? Well, our source explains that humans actually have an emotional addiction to negative feelings. I know, it sounds absolutely wild, but it's true. It is almost like a hormonal addiction where these negative emotions just pull us in deeper and deeper. If we're constantly in a state of resentment, constantly chewing on our troubles and replaying arguments in the shower, that negativity literally becomes the fundamental baseline vibration of our daily lives. We literally get chemically hooked on our own bad luck.
But how do the quote-unquote lucky people handle this? Well, they use a completely different strategy to process the world. When a problem pops up, they don't marinate in it. They quickly jump off the problem and just brush it aside. Our source brilliantly compares this to Scarlett O'Hara's incredibly famous mindset, "I'll think about it tomorrow." They acknowledge the issue, they realize it is just not worth their immediate emotional energy, and they just keep moving forward. They absolutely refuse to let the negativity become their baseline.
Section 3. How our attention works. Okay, so if avoiding the negative trap is step 1, what's step 2? How do we actively generate that feeling of constant luck? To get that, we need to look at the underlying mechanism of how our attention actually functions. The source shares this fantastic historical precedent about the author John Kehoe and his friend. They used a very specific, almost playful technique. They trained themselves to say a really simple phrase, "That's life," but with a major twist. Instead of saying it when things went wrong, they'd say it whenever pleasant things occurred. Had a great cup of coffee? Well, that's life. Found the perfect parking spot right up front? That's life. By doing this, they were constantly anchoring their attention to positive events, and they noticed a massive compounding effect. The more they said it, the more great things just seemed to happen.
And this brings us to the absolute core philosophy we're talking about today. Where attention goes, energy flows. It really is that simple. If you don't let yourself get stuck in the mud of your daily problems, your energy just naturally rushes toward the pleasant surprises that are actually happening around you all the time. The good stuff isn't rare at all. Our attention to it is what's rare.
Now here is where the science in the source material gets incredibly fascinating. Enter the reticular activating system, or RAS for short. Think of your RAS as your brain's very own biological search engine. At any given second, your brain is getting completely bombarded with millions of bits of information. Honestly, you would go crazy if you processed all of it. So your RAS steps in and filters the world based on what you consciously instruct it to look for. It highlights whatever you have trained it to find.
Let's think about how the RAS works in practice. If you're spending all your emotional energy reacting to neighborhood scandals or stressing out over money problems, you are literally typing "scandals and money problems" into your brain's search bar. Your RAS goes, "Okay, got it, this is what's important to us," and it actively seeks out more of that. But you can consciously choose the exact opposite. You can instruct your brain to find comfortable, cool, lucky moments. And when you do that, your RAS starts highlighting every tiny little victory you used to completely ignore.
Section 4. Practice. Living like kings. So how do we actually hack our own biological search engine? How do we put this into practice today? The speaker in our source shares a deeply personal, really funny anecdote to explain her own strategy. She talks about this little boy who was looking through an old family photo album and saw a picture of a traditional wedding, where the bride and groom were wearing these ornate crowns. The boy looks up, totally amazed, and asks, "Why didn't anyone tell me we are kings?" That innocent, wonderful little shift in perspective inspired the speaker's own personal catchphrase for hacking her RAS. Her phrase became, "We live like kings." Every single time something even mildly good happened to her or her husband, they would look at each other and say, "We live like kings." And you have to hear the compounding positive observations that follow this. First, they got a completely surprise VIP transfer in a Land Cruiser for their vacation. Then, their hotel just magically upgraded them to conjoined rooms. They'd find themselves sitting by the sea having champagne and shrimp. They got a whole row of 4 empty seats on a packed plane. Her RAS had basically started aggressively hunting for evidence to prove that they did, in fact, live like kings.
The climax of this whole story is just fantastic. The speaker decided she was going to splurge on a really expensive, luxurious mattress because obviously kings need a good bed, right? But the luck didn't stop there. Completely unprompted, out of absolutely nowhere, her daughter and a friend gifted her 2 sets of ridiculously luxurious, ultra-expensive bed sheets to go perfectly with it. She didn't ask for them, they literally just arrived. It cemented her new mindset so perfectly that she adjusted her phrase right then and there to, "I sleep like a king."
Section 5. Your conscious choice.
You know, it's so easy to hear a story like that and just think, well, she really is just lucky. But these escalating events, they weren't random, unearned gifts from the universe. They were the direct result of tuning the brain's search engine to notice the abundance that was already right under her nose. The absolutely crucial takeaway here is this. Luck is simply a choice of focus. It's not a magical trait you're born with. It's not something the universe randomly bestows upon a select few. It is simply and entirely a conscious choice of where you place your attention every single day.
Which brings us to a direct challenge for you. The speaker's phrase was, "We live like kings," and John Kehoe's was, "That's life." So what will your phrase be? What short, resonant phrase, maybe something simple like, "I'm always lucky," are you going to invent today to start programming your own reticular activating system? Because the second you choose your phrase and start actually paying attention to the good stuff, your brain's search engine is going to make sure you find it. Start noticing your luck today, and I promise you, you are going to start seeing it absolutely everywhere.